Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to today's episode of Bottom Shelf Sports. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about college football. That's what we're going to be looking at a lot today, and Hard Knocks. Bears fans here, that's what we want to go into. So, over to my co-host. How you doing, Matthias?
We're doing all right. Last night was we are of the 90% that do not have cable TV, and
That's true.
yeah. So spoiler alert: we are both big Bears fans. Um, Ethan took a brief weird hiatus where he was a 49er fan for a while, but we don't talk about those dark days.
I was a young kid. I was lost.
But last night, I'm not kidding you. So like, this is my routine. This has been my Hard Knocks routine since I've lived almost on my own. Comes out Tuesday nights. Before I would usually do it Wednesday because I didn't care about watching it
Right,
immediately.
right, right.
I pour myself a glass of bourbon. I once the show starts, I start drinking that glass of bourbon. Usually
Mhm.
I can sip on it and then halfway through the show, I've got a little buzz going on and I watch it and I enjoy it. So last night everything got so thrown off because I've got my glass of bourbon. I was looking forward to it all week. Honestly, last week's episode I thought was disappointing because I did watch it
Yeah,
back, which is a
right,
weird
right.
thing.
It was a bit slow, which it's understandable with them opening the show the way they did. Like
Yeah.
you have to introduce people to who the Bears are. But yeah, so last night,
Yes, but other than that, it was good. Enjoyed watching it. Like I said, what time? 9:15, 9:30, I think it
yeah,
came on finally.
9:15, I was sitting there just like everyone else, sitting there refresh, refresh. Is it out? Let
It
me
was
check
crazy.
Twitter. People on Twitter are just like, where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? And then just going back and forth. And then finally you texted me, hey, it's out. So I hopped right on. And then the whole time I'm like, I wonder if I'm behind everyone else, like a minute or two. Because the point of like Hard Knocks being the Bears right now is you want to be live with everyone else. You want to
Yes.
experience that. Like it's like we're all in a room together. And one of the cool things about what I love about sports personally is like Twitter. Twitter during sports events, it's unlike anything. So like Twitter during Hard Knocks, which we're diehard Bears fans. So during Hard Knocks, like you want to be able to be like, "Yo, did you see Rome sing that song last night?" You know, stuff like that. And that's what makes it
Shout
really
out Chris
fun.
Brown.
Oh god, that he sang 10 times better than Caleb Williams, who, being the quarterback of the Chicago Bears, you would want Caleb to know how to sing. But
Disagree. I don't.
okay,
I don't
okay,
want. I don't want my quarterback. So apparently they didn't roll it, but apparently he did it again, and it was way better because they were all messed up
right.
with the karaoke. But I want my quarterback awkward in almost everything outside of playing quarterback.
100%. I can understand it. You because you can get the Jay Cutler. Like I don't care about any of this. I'm too cool
Shout
for
out.
this. Or you could get Justin Fields, who is in front of every camera, had the biggest swag on. He's always right there when you want it, and it was extra for him. But yeah, so I guess you know what we could just roll straight into Hard Knocks talk, and
I love it.
that works.
I took some notes. I,
Good
I was
call.
I was locked in. I was dialed in. The first thing I wrote down, if I may, I've watched the Bears, I mean, I would say fairly religiously most of my life. Like that was like my dad watched the Bears and that was just a part of our weekend routine. I do not think there's ever been a team like this fun and swaggy.
I completely agree with that.
Like it's not even close.
One of the notes I had in there was this team has culture. Like
Yes.
you can see and feel the culture coming off the screen the whole time we're watching. It's unlike anything else. Like because when during like the Devin Hester era, I like to say like the defense was their own thing and the offense was their own thing and the special teams their own thing. This feels like such a mix of like guys like Montez Sweat, who's not really on screen much. I've noticed. I would love. He has a great personality, but he's the captain of that defense. But Jalen Johnson, he's the mouth. Like he's all over the place, and he had a lot of good takes in the episode too. But yeah, it's unlike any team we've seen for sure.
And this is, I did write down a few like negative things, but yes, like Jalen Johnson chirping the whole time. That little bit where Keenan Allen was interviewed and he's like, I haven't gotten a catch on him yet.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's I don't know how many Pro Bowls. I think he's been 5 or 6 Pro Bowls.
Five Pro Bowls. Yeah.
That's pretty sick. And then I was thinking too, there was so much chippiness at camp. Not chippiness, but like Montez Sweat got thrown out early on. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember that. But, like he
Yep.
accidentally like ran into Caleb and Eberflus threw him out.
Yep.
There was a play where I think Gerald Everett took a late hit and Caleb Williams got in there. Keep in
Mhm.
mind the Bears have Final Cut, so like,
Yeah.
have you
It,
noticed there's not been one curse word on Hard Knocks?
right. Right. Yeah.
There hasn't
They're
been a single one. Look at the
so
Lions Hard Knocks.
it's like how loose they are, but they're giving you the straight edge Chicago
Yes,
Bears.
the
Like we're not. Yeah.
yes.
It.
It's a little bit disappointing because it does feel McCaskeyed
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and Kevin Warren too. I mean,
It.
when you're doing like the
There's.
prayers for your stadium,
Yeah.
it gives a little bit of vibes like we're gonna be the clean, franchise, and it's like that does come off a little strange, but I love it. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the team, so
Right.
it could literally be like the fucking sprinklers going off for 50
It
minutes, and I'd
could,
be locked in.
as long as it's on the Chicago Bears practice field in Lake Forest, I think they could
Yes,
show anything, and I'd be happy. Some of the notes I took, Colin Johnson is the guy I really want to make this team. I don't think he's on a chopping block by any means, but no one's safe. So Colin Johnson's a guy who I could see as a 4 or 5. Like I think he's a great player. Seems like a really good guy.
good guy.
Um, to get into like more of the HBO director of the episode, I'm actually a really big fan how they keep incorporating like Chicago culture. Like there's a lot
Yeah,
of blues. That blues scene was a bit long,
it was a
and
little long. I wrote
it,
that
it
down.
was it was a little long, and it felt like okay, we got it. But I do love that they're really showing why we think Chicago's the greatest city in the world. It's beautiful. It has everything you
Facts.
want. The blues, there's like culture, which is kind of a theme with the Chicago Bears, at least through this series. Um, Caleb in flag football, he mentioned that how he'd like to do that in the Olympics, and I that's a fun thought. But now that we've got someone who we think is the guy, that's a thought that gets a little scary.
Yeah. It's the first, it's not the first time. I'd be lying if I said I felt like this is the first time we had the guy, because
Right.
you can when we said this a ton last year, like outside looking in, it's easy to pick apart other teams' roster and then say like, oh, can you believe the Giants are rooting for Daniel Jones, or oh, can you believe that the
Right,
Raiders are
right.
rooting for? It's so easy to like see someone's flaws when you don't have any rooting interest in them, because we defended Justin Fields hard,
Couldn't
hard, hard,
you and me
hard.
specifically were in on Justin Fields until the last 7 games
Yes.
when he proved nothing.
And
And
also the last, if the Bears didn't get a godsend of the Panthers being the worst team in the league last year,
greatest trade of all time.
probably the greatest trade of all time, there's a chance that we would still be like fine riding with Justin Fields. I
Got a
would
Justin
assume.
Fields jersey. Bought
Yes,
the
well, yeah.
first time I've
Yes.
bought a Bears quarterback jersey. Justin Fields got the vapor. I went up a tier and made sure, like, okay, he's the guy. And now that's just a Jalen Johnson jersey because he took his number.
Also, Steelers Nation on Twitter. I don't know if you saw it. There was a clip going around from training camp today where Justin Fields held the ball. I mean, it's like 4.5, 5 seconds, and the defensive end comes around and they can't touch the quarterback, so he runs by him,
Right.
puts his hand up. A full second goes by, and then Fields throws it. And I think it was, I don't know who caught the touchdown, but Steelers Nation was going nuts, and everyone was like, "Dude, that's a sack." And
Yeah.
probably a second sack because he was standing back there holding the
We
ball. Watch, 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 watch.
we dealt with that. We watched that enough. And at some point, Justin Fields will be in our rearview mirror. He's still kind of hanging out because we have to make sure Caleb is going to be better than him. It's still early.
Yes.
We both have a pretty sure feeling he'll be better than Justin Fields, but nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah.
So it's hard not to focus on him, but Justin Fields with his timing and the worst footwork I've ever seen in my life, he's it's sloppy, it's gross, his mechanics are no good.
Great kid. Like, great
Great.
dude.
No,
I mean,
like a super good guy. He was dedicated to Chicago, which is something we both really want, is someone who like digs the city.
if we pulled up Justin Fields' rosters the past 3 seasons, I mean, it's tough to look at. It really
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And I think like there was a little bit of doing good by Justin Fields trading him to the Steelers for a 6th-round pick. If he plays more than 50% of the snaps, they get a 4th. But he could have been traded for more in return. And I think Ryan Poles was kind of like, hey, hand up. you
Yeah,
were in a pretty bad situation. So like, where do you want to go? And Pittsburgh's
right.
perfect for him. Like him, I mean Russell Wilson. That's a weird one, but like I think that's a good
Mike
situation for him.
Tomlin, that'll
Mike Tomlin.
that's someone who can. He's the type of person who takes that edge off of everyone, and he'll round you out. But as soon as you leave, you get Martavis Bryant, Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
I don't want Justin Fields to turn into like Antonio Brown or anything. That'll take a couple of hits to the head, maybe, which he took a lot of those in Chicago.
Dude, and no calls. That poor kid,
None,
again,
none.
he got the shit kicked out of him on a weekly basis. I mean, on the other side of this wall is where I watch
Yeah,
other games. I have screamed so loud at my TV, screaming for flags, and it's just like, I still don't get why he never got him. I think it was because he didn't complain at all.
right, right.
Okay, real quick, another thing. Ethan is a big, he's got like 17 Josh Allen jerseys.
Big
Did
Josh
you
Allen
see
fan.
after the game Sunday, Josh came up to Caleb and he's like, "Hey, don't. What did he say? Like, don't be trying to get that call in the
Yeah, he
preseason."
was like, man, you can't be trying to get that in the preseason, which that leads straight into one of the coolest moments of the episodes was them scouting the refs.
Yes, that was insane.
Never seen that before. And you got, I don't know who it was, but he's like, yeah, so he's actually the athletic director of a Seattle high school. And then
Yes,
Caleb's over here. Okay, okay. And it's like, that's what makes quarterbacks great, though. I want my quarterback to go out there and be like, "Hey, man, did you guys win last night? Oh, it was good. It was good.
yes,
Nice football game. Just like know the refs. You want to have a relationship. Justin Fields definitely didn't have that. He probably looked at the refs as his enemy because he didn't get calls from the get.
yeah.
But you got to earn that, and hopefully Caleb's going to be that guy who's going to learn that. Some other notes I had was like the Caleb and Roma Dunze chemistry.
Same thing. I had the
It's
same note.
it might be it's so dynamic. Like we're like it comparisons are whatever, but like I feel like it's the Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. It's the Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs for a couple years. It's Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. You don't think of that receiver without the quarterback, and it's like Roma Dunze. First thought now for a lot of people is hopefully going to be Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and just the organic way they got those two. It wasn't like they're both on the exact same time frame. Caleb's
Yep.
22 years
Yeah.
old. I'd assume Rome's right around that same
Yeah.
21,
Yeah.
22.
Yeah.
It's like they're both on rookie contracts on a
They
team that
played.
had
Yeah.
not a terrible roster going into it, and like the rarity of that. I mean, I've never seen it. I'm pretty sure I can't think of another draft class where it was quarterback, wide receiver in the top 10.
And they're
Is there
both
any?
arguably generational. See, the closest you could ever look at would have to be everyone says Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, because he said that's my guy, but he
Yeah,
did that a year after. So
right.
to be on the same time frame, and I have to keep throwing in there potentially be generational. That part, like, I don't know if that's ever been done. Because normally a
Yeah,
quarterback, he's searching the draft and he's like, I want this guy. When we were watching Justin Fields, I wanted Jackson Smith and Jigba so bad because he threw him the ball, 48 times at Ohio State. But that's, again, it's a lot different than coming in the league as rookies the same year. You're experiencing a lot of the same stuff. Both
yeah,
top 10 picks. I don't want to say there's equal hype around both, but the Roma Dunze hype is absolutely warranted. It's right there. As a Washington fan, I've been screaming his name for 2 years, saying this guy's
facts.
Devontae Adams. The route running ability of Devontae Adams, but he can catch like Alshon Jeffrey in his prime. Bear shout out.
Shut up, Bills.
Um, I don't think we're gonna really understand what we have right now. These are the early days of it, but it's like two young, smart guys. Like I don't know how to put it, but like very charismatic individuals.
They
Like
articulate well. They speak
extremely,
so well. That
yeah.
clip of Rome with those two, I don't know who they were. There was two kids, and he was kind of telling
Oh
how he
yeah, yeah, yeah.
practices. Like,
They
don't
were
ever
like
put
the
yourself in a
the
game
Boys
where
and Girls Club of Chicago. So they like
okay,
he's doing a local thing too, which is great.
you would have thought Rome's been playing for years in the NFL with how he
Oh,
was presenting himself.
100%. And no,
And
you
like,
wouldn't look and go, "That's a 22-year-old kid." Like,
yes,
no.
and just saying like like you should be practicing stuff so often that when you're on the game, like when you're on the field in the game, it's just so normal. Oh, I've ran this route 1,000 times. I've caught that pass 1,000 times.
Right.
It's just so normal, and we don't think like you're in a stadium with 60, 70,000 people screaming at you and yelling. And
Yeah.
for him, it's just like this is a normal day, which is
Yeah.
insane to think about.
In Rome, another thing about both these guys, from my perspective with Rome, is Rome has shown up in those big moments. Like he's used to that pressure because that Washington season last year, like there was a part of that season where the chips are getting pushed in on them and everyone is paying attention. Rome never took a day off. Like he played every game last year and he showed up for all those big moments. I mean, the touchdown against Oregon, biggest moment in Washington for a long time. And then Caleb Williams. I mean,
Yeah.
he's Mr. Hollywood for a year and a half, plus the
Whoa.
Oklahoma deal.
Whoa.
That's
Whoa.
not a shot. That's not a shot. He was in LA, but like he played in a huge market and he had so many eyes on him. ESPN every day was talking about him. So like he's another guy who I think just going back on like these guys articulate, they can handle pressure as far as we know.
Yeah.
Granted, it's not game day. That's going to be a different feeling. I heard today on local talk radio that maybe Caleb was a bit nervous. Like you can kind of see him before the game. I believe it was Cole Kmet saying you can see him before the game. He might have been nervous because he was looking things over, triple, quadruple check in, and it's. But hey, I mean that's just pregame jitters, and everybody gets that. I mean, hell, Patrick Mahomes probably still gets jitters before he
And
wins
that's
his
good.
fifth Super Bowl. Yeah, you
Like
want that.
you want to know a guy who didn't get jitters? Jake Cutler, my favorite, one of my favorite athletes of all time. And look at what we got. Like the give a shit meter when it's high, like that's not a
Yeah,
bad thing. Like preparation is the father of learning. Like when they are
yeah,
dialed in, like that's the thing. Like no surprises. And I think it showed on that first drive. And honestly, I thought that here we are talking about the Bills preseason game instead of Hard Knocks. But like on that first drive, he just seemed like nothing was surprising him. Did you see when he did that little play action? He booted out. He put the ball
yeah.
like
Away.
3 feet out so it couldn't
Yeah,
get swatted out. I was like, I don't think I've
smart.
ever seen that ever.
No, no.
And
Justin
then,
Fields out here holding it one handed, so it
yes,
gets slapped right out. Yeah,
just asking
yeah,
for it.
yes, yes,
But you know, they did the Hard Knocks did a good job like going back over the game. And what I've kind of picked up on, like when you're rooting for the team on Hard Knocks, you like notice the little things that like they don't show. Like the
right.
Jalen Johnson and Keenan Allen, that's been like a month of training camp, and
Oh yeah,
they showed like 45 seconds of it. It
right,
makes you
right.
realize like these guys on Hard Knocks, like how much they are digging through hours and hours
Oh,
and
so
hours
much. I mean, they
a
have a
week to
nonstop
edit.
camera. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
insane.
Yeah, and jokingly last night I kept thinking like maybe they're still editing because it was a late drop and there was a lot of like again, being Chicago fans, it's a huge media market. So, like, there's so many talking points. I mean, if
Yeah.
Caleb Williams trips on his shoes tomorrow, I promise you, on every sports talk station in Chicago, it will be the topic. Like, Caleb Williams tripped over his shoes. Um, some other things. Velus Jones, great guy. He's. I'm glad that he's trying to show that he can do other things. But looking at how many running backs we have now, I completely forgot Travis Homer is on this roster. He was with the Seahawks, more of a special teams guy, but that's also what Velus Jones is. And it's tough seeing Velus Jones like make the roster. He's kind of in a make or break, and this preseason is going to be a lot for him. He's got to prove he can either be a running back, catch the ball. Another note I had is when he caught that first kickoff, if you watch his leg, you know, like sometimes maybe you're really nervous and you start walking, you feel your knee get weak. And you're like, I could fall. When he caught that first ball, if you watch his leg, it gets a little wobbly. And I'm like,
What a deep dive.
Velus Jones Jr. is still jittery and has yips. And it's not good
Do you
when
think he's got yips?
absolutely without he dropped the first catch of
I
the
think there was some miscommunication.
I
But
I'm not a Velus Jones guy. I'm
do you
rooting for the guy,
I
but
think Velus Jones is one of the top. I think a lot of people like I listen to a lot of local media and podcasts and all that stuff. People say Velus Jones is top 3 kick returner in the league.
I think his speed
It's hard to
absolutely is
get.
there.
It's hard to
He's
get rid of that.
dynamic. I think he's dynamic, but
Yeah.
think of the amount of times last year you said, "What the hell are you doing, Velus?" When he would catch a punt and run backwards and then run this way. or the amount of times he muffed punts. I feel like I don't have a stat in front of me, but I feel like he muffed 3 or 4 punts easily last year.
He
And
didn't
for
return a ton of punts last year.
yeah,
Dante
well,
Pettis was a nightmare.
yeah,
He's a muffer. I couldn't even tell you who the other guy returning punts was last year. That's
it's
on me.
special teams has been an issue,
What does it
but
change your mind at all that Valus Jones Jr. is a lover of ferrets and he had a ferret?
so as someone who was a former owner of Ferrets, RIP
Shout out
Ozzy,
Ozzy.
Ozzie Guillen, Chicago White Sox manager. Um, that was a fun moment, and I did go, maybe he's a guy, maybe he's a guy, just for fun there. But honestly, I think he's going to be a major point in all the episodes because I think he is a guy who is in a make or break situation. And granted, he's probably going to make it. He's a Ryan Poles guy. We've
He's
talked
probably going
about
to make
this.
it. Third
We've
round
talked
pick.
about this. Yeah, Ryan Poles guy. We watched this with Ryan Pace, where if they draft a guy and he's not good,
We
keep him
don't
on the roster.
we don't say that guy's name.
We try not to go to the past.
We're on the brighter pastures. We don't talk about
But
Ryan Pace.
Billis Jones Jr. feels like a make or break. The other running back, I put Cunningham, but that's not his last name. I couldn't remember what it was.
The running back that played against the Bills,
Yeah.
Ian Wheeler, the doctor.
Was it Ian Wheeler?
That's the guy that had 2 touchdowns against the Bills.
Okay, yeah.
The
So
kid
Ian
with-
Wheeler, he seems like, again, with the running back position, like we actually have a doghouse with the running backs. So what is it? It's DeAndre Swift is our one. It's probably going to be Roshan Johnson two, split with Khalil Herbert.
If
And
I mean, Khalil Herbert's probably your 2. Roshan
Yeah,
is a lot better
Roshan,
at
he's still
blocking
young.
and
Yeah, he's still young, but he'll be your pass catching on a third down when DeAndre might be a little tired. But then you got guys like this Ian Wheeler,
rookie.
and then they were showing Velus Jones running. Like running backs go down, and we all know that. And God forbid anything happens to this team. But the good news is, I feel like we have some depth at running back, which a lot of teams seem to struggle with getting. But that's
I'm
one of the
down.
positives. Yeah.
I'm down for Valus Jones' running back roster spot, and
If
then
if
you
he
could,
can figure it out, 100%, he'll be better at that than he was wide receiver. Unfortunately,
and I don't know where the Bears are as far as the final 52. Like I don't know. Hard Knocks hasn't really gone into that, like who's on the chopping block.
Right.
Okay, so last night, one thing I wrote down. I don't remember the narrator's name of Hard Knocks, but he alluded to Austin Booker being like a fringe player.
Oh yeah,
When you
yeah,
caught that, I was like, wait a minute. And that's when I wrote that note down. Like, if you're just watching and you're a fan of
Yeah.
another team, you're like, okay, fringe guy. But it's like, when you follow that team fairly religiously, it's like Austin Burke. He is
we know
bona
him.
fide.
Yeah.
He's on this roster.
he's a name.
1,000%.
He's a potential star of the team.
Everyone
But
is saying
yeah.
the same thing. Everyone's like, poor man's Max Crosby. Poor man's. If you give me 65% Max Crosby
Of Max Crosby, I'll take that every day.
for a 5th round
I'll-
pick,
No
yes.
question.
Sign
It
me
is. It is also. It kind of stinks to remember, like, oh yeah, we did get him after a punter. Like maybe there's others out there, but I think Austin Booker. I think he's gonna show that he's a good draft pick, and the way he played against the Bills, going back to the game again, like he played incredible. He made a name for himself. People
He was
around the
on
league
fire.
know his name. Yeah.
And yeah,
Um,
it's second and third tier guys, but you should. It's like don't play down to your competition. Like you should get 2 sacks if you think you're NFL talent. You should probably get a sack and a half against second and third string guys. You should.
yeah.
And
yeah.
so it's like go and like it's not his fault. That's who's playing in front of him. Like he did his job. Like
Yeah.
mission accomplished.
Some other just to shorten up the rest of the episode. I thought some of the Keenan Allen with his family was fun, but Keenan
Loved
Allen's
it.
a vet. We understand watching Hard Knocks year after year. They're gonna do the vet stuff. DJ Moore's family, same thing. Museum of Ice Cream. I have been there, but my experience wasn't like DJ Moore's because when I went, there was 1,000 little kids next to me and my girlfriend, and it
I was
was like,
wondering, did he rent that
oh,
place out?
he definitely rented that out
Yeah.
because it's impossible to walk through there. And it was like I remember wanting to dive into the pit of pink, And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, well, there's a kid there and a kid there and a kid there, and I'm a grown adult. I don't need to be jumping
There's
in.
kids here, and I have a
Yeah,
mustache, and I'm in an ice cream museum, so
yeah, I
I gotta
can't.
be really careful right now.
Right, right.
Was it?
But
I mean, was it good? Was it like?
no, it's a really cool thing. I don't. It's a chain. They have it in New York too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but no, it's really cool. It's another thing that like so they have every flavor of ice cream there, which you'll get sick if you're like lactose intolerant or you don't like ice cream, which you have to be a psycho. But there's a lot of ice cream in there. So if you ever come to Chicago,
So the
that's
Chicago
definitely a
style
place.
dog ice cream was not a
That is
joke.
that's not a joke, but from what I was told, the topping that they use, like the relish, it wasn't relish. It was like lime or something. It was something different I couldn't tell you what it was, but I
Yeah,
remember eating it and being like, I didn't have the DJ Moore like this is gross reaction, but I was like,
he was
okay, this
trying.
is interesting. Yeah, and we're happy for that. He's going to be here for a long time, which is good.
DJ
Um,
Moore is, I mean, he's getting up there to be like one of my like absolute favorite guys to watch. Just like again, like how he carries himself.
one of
And
our
usually,
guys. Yeah.
yeah, and we talked about this before, like competent receivers in the NFL because it's hard because quarterbacks touch the ball every play. Running backs are going to get 15, 20 carries. If you're an elite wide receiver, you might catch 6, 7 balls a game.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
and so it's like I think those guys know how talented they are. So if they go a game without catching a pass, like that just starts boiling up, and then I think that's why you see a lot of diva receivers. But
100%.
like DJ Moore, I mean, he's just so he's this. It's just steady.
Even keeled, just
He's
even
even
keeled
keeled.
guy,
He's
easy to get
talented.
along with. You see him getting up with Keenan Allen immediately. Like again, you got to
Oh,
remember
they're
these
absolute
guys
boys.
just got into camp with each other. They seem like best friends. I mean, he's up to him like, "Hey man, we're gonna get you paid," which I personally hope we keep Keenan Allen. I think it'd be
I think
cool.
so.
2 year contract after this, I'd be totally fine. Um, but DJ Moore, we got one of the guys. Like and he's going to be. We're gonna future generations will talk about him like he was the Brandon Marshall of our generation or
Mm.
Alshon Jeffrey, stuff like that. Like, but he's probably going to exceed all of that, and that's the good news about him.
And what better guys to learn behind if you're Roma Dunze? Okay, real quick.
100,
A
yeah,
lot are people mispronouncing it? Is it a Dunze or is it a Dunze? Because the Dunze has become
it's
it's
driving
coming
me
out of
nuts.
people's okay, it's coming out of
Yeah,
people's mouths hard.
it
Even
is.
guys on local media.
Yeah, so it is Odunze,
Okay.
somebody who watched every Washington game for 2 dozen seasons. It's Odunze. It's always been Odunze. But there's a lot of Chicagoans are famous for mispronouncing players.
Trubinsky,
It's Trubinsky, Alshon Jeffries,
Cutlers.
it's Cutlers, and it's never ending. So I figured Odunze would. I'm surprised they're not mispronouncing Rome or Keenan Allen. It's. But what you were saying about Rome having like he's I don't think there's 2 better guys in the league to teach
Yes.
that guy. Those are
That's what
two
I'm saying.
even keeled guys. Very because Keenan Allen, he'll get in your face and he'll tell you like I'm the best receiver in the league right now. And when he's on, he's on.
Yeah.
Injury concerns behind him, he's easily one of the better route runners in the league. Also, and there was an interview, I'm sure you heard it, where he was saying that Rome came in here. He just needs to learn to be a receiver. He has all the skill in the world, just needs to learn to be a receiver. And once Rome gets that figured out, he's going to be
Yeah,
dangerous.
watch
And
out.
yeah, we've got our guy, regardless of DJ being here for 6 more years, which
Yeah, it's insane.
the outside perspective is insane that we have 2 X's. We have 2 X's right now, two
Yeah.
dynamic receivers, and then Keenan Allen as a 3. And let's
Yeah.
not even we can't forget the hometown hero Cole Kmet,
Yeah,
who
I
a
got
lot of people continue to sleep on.
I have a big start from last night. Like Cole Kmet, I put just one of those guys where you look back and it's like, oh, remember Cole Kmet? We didn't appreciate him enough. Like, this
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
reminder. Like, Cole Kmet is, I mean, another charismatic
He's a
guy
leader.
that, like,
He's a
he's a
leader.
leader.
Yeah.
Notre Dame guy, so South Bend. Where's he from? Is he from?
Arlington Heights.
Okay,
Arlington
there you
Heights. So I
go.
mean he is Chicago born and raised.
Yeah.
I believe he's a Sox fan. Don't quote me on that, but I mean he's a Chicagoan. And if to interject on that, something I love about that guy is like when you think about it, like, oh yeah, Cole Kmet's been here a minute. Like he's one of the he's young, but he's one
It
of the older
also
guys on the team.
also locked in. I mean,
Yeah,
his
and he
contract is
got
locked in.
paid.
Yeah.
Ryan Poles seems to he knows what he's doing with let's get these guys paid so they don't have to worry about that. And so it's like again, if we were just to run that down easily, you just go DJ Moore's 6 more seasons in his prime, starting his prime, you could say, because he's getting his first good quarterback of his career. And then you get Roma Dunze for what is it? It would be 4 seasons off your rookie contract,
Yes, with a
and
fifth year
then
op. I'd
Cole.
assume all positions are the same. You get a fifth year option.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And there's no doubt. Hopefully, we pay him. A huge Roma Dunze guy.
So
And
yeah,
then,
Roma Dunze is 22 years old. Keenan Allen's 32. DJ Moore is 27. So Keenan Allen,
yeah,
yeah, 32. You're starting
right.
to get up there, but you're not asking him to do everything.
No,
Like
no, no.
in
He's
Los Angeles, and he was. I mean, Mike Williams gets hurt all the time and can't catch passes. Like the offense revolved around like Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen. Here, it's like that iron sharpens iron. Like in practice, like
100%.
Jalen
Yeah.
Johnson going up against them, like that makes him better. There's been
Oh,
some
yeah.
stuff on Twitter saying that Keenan Allen's gained 20 pounds since coming to the Bears, and he's getting slower. And I was like, I mean, I don't know. You look at him on
Even
and tape, he doesn't look like it, but he doesn't need to be this crazy fast. Like Tyler Scott's going to
the,
be on the roster. He's
yeah,
going to be that fast little uh,
yeah.
Tyreek Hill,
Tyreek Hill,
fast,
Tyreek
just
Hill,
run
yeah.
around, run around.
Yeah, yeah.
Tyreek Stevenson, who the hell's that? Tyreek
That's our
Stevenson.
cornerback. One of the best
Yes, yes,
cornerbacks in
yes,
the
yes,
league.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, one of the cool things I was thinking a lot about, and I had in my notes, kind of put the bow on Hard Knocks was when you're watching Hard Knocks and you look at like the receivers and everyone they show bench shots, and you're like, Keenan Allen's going to be our three, and
Yeah,
I want him as a three, and it's like one of the best receivers, a bona fide Hall of Famer. He's your number three, and he's I don't want to say he's in his prime, but he's at the end of his prime, but he's
yeah.
still got 2 years of very great football in him, and it's like that's your number three, and blows me away that we managed to land him for what was it, a fourth round pick?
I could not tell you the details.
I
Not
know it.
much. I mean,
Yeah, it
worth
wasn't much. It didn't cost much. Um, but it's like Keenan Allen is he's going to be a stud this year, no doubt.
2024 fourth round pick,
Yeah.
110th overall.
So 110th overall pick, who we're not even going to look at who got drafted with that because it's like it doesn't matter. We have Keenan Allen on our team.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, you're gaining a wide receiver coach and a player. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're gaining a guy
yeah,
that's a 10 plus year vet. I mean, that's
yeah.
insane.
Oh, he could go into coaching in 2 years if he wanted. He's a phenomenal guy. Um, that wraps up my thoughts with Hard Knocks. Do you have any leftover thoughts or leftover notes you want to go over with that?
I have real quick. So that pick ended up going to the New England Patriots, and they got Javon Baker, wide receiver from Central
From
Florida. So that
I
was
can
that was a
yeah.
Keenan Allen pick.
So if we hear that name, a receiver for a receiver, I'll take
Yep.
Javon Baker for Keenan Allen any day. That's fine by
Yes.
me.
No, I
Um,
mean, I think we hit on a bunch of the stuff. I mean, I just think it's
yeah,
exciting, and um, like the glass is so half full, more half full than it's ever been. And
right.
you can nitpick certain things, and you can remember like the things we're nitpicking, the luxury that it is to have your quarterback, and we're assuming that like we just fucking got it right. Like the eye
It's hard not
tests,
to. Yeah.
the eye tests in the tape just doesn't lie. In a year ago, I would have said that there's no chance I want anyone else. I'm sick of doing this redo bullshit. We had that conversation after that Chiefs game.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
Monday morning, and like it was just
Yeah.
I was driving an hour and a half for work, and I remember just like 20 minutes just venting, like I don't want to do this again. But
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like doing it again. This is
Right. Right.
something that we haven't had before.
Yeah.
So I just think that that wraps up the hard knocks and everything. But we would like to transition here, and we both enjoy gambling. I'd like to cover a few gambling things, Ethan, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. No problem. Let's go.
Okay, I have a problem. Um, I don't care if you're betting $1 or $10,000. If you're
Hmm.
betting, you're in.
Yeah.
I was listening to something, and okay, we've mentioned that a few times. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I drive quite a bit.
Yeah, right,
I
right.
was listening to some guys, and they were talking about how they were at the sports book, and this guy was all jacked up about winning a bet, and then they asked, and he said he cashed a $25 ticket, and they're giving him shit. It's like, that doesn't matter because money's relative,
Yeah,
and if you're willing to
exactly.
take $1 of your money and bet it on something, like, dude, I don't care if that's your Super Bowl. Like, if you're
Yeah.
betting $1, I don't
Look,
care. So I did
a
want to I
win
did
is a
want to point
win.
that out.
Yeah, a win
And
is a
then a
win.
loss is a loss. Like,
Yeah,
that's the thing.
exactly,
You're taking
exactly.
your money and potentially lighting it on fire.
Yeah, yeah. Which some bets you hate to do, some bets you love, some bets you might just like to do. And
Ooh,
in this house, in this
ooh.
podcast, we do a lot of unit talk, and units are going to be relative, but it's relative based on how much we do. Because it's kind of in the gambling sphere for anyone new with gambling is you don't necessarily want to go up to your buddy and be like, "Hey, I just bet $285." Just keep it to units. Like that's your business, but like we treat it like a win is a win. If my brother here wins $2, doesn't matter to me. He won that bet. He won that bet, and that's all that matters to us. Is we want to try to help you win some bets at least for this college football season. And if you like it, if you love it, even if you hate it, these are the
Mm.
kind of bets we like to give. It's going to be every Wednesday. We'll try to give a like it, a love it, and a hate. And if you want to start us off with, let's hear a bet that you love for college football this year.
Okay, a bet that I love, and there's with the new college football playoff, and then with the conference realignment, like the SEC and the Big Ten are both nutty. And I was looking at a lot of these teams and trying to find anything that has a love. It has to be something that you're assuming has a high probability of happening, but also
Right.
it has a decent payout for it as
Yeah,
far as the
decent
odds go.
odds are still, yeah, yeah.
So, like, I'm not going to say a love is, I don't know, Ohio State to beat Indiana. I mean, you know what I mean?
Right, right,
Like,
right. Because
yeah,
that's,
of course it's going to happen. It's going to be minus 850. I mean, it's like it
yeah.
doesn't make sense.
If I walk
So,
outside in the rain 10 times, I'm going to get wet.
yes,
Sorry, Indiana, but it's unlikely.
and that state sucks. But
Yeah, right.
anyhow, okay. So my love right now. These are all futures. These are not single games. But my love, Oklahoma under 7.5 wins plus 100.
Oh, under 7.5 wins for Oklahoma, and you love that bet.
I love that bet. That if I had to pick an under, well, I'm kind of on. I kind of got two of them, but as far as love goes, Oklahoma lost 7 starters on offense. They play 6 of the top 8 SEC schools. And
Right, tough
may I
schedule,
read
very
you
tough
Oklahoma's
schedule.
football schedule? Okay,
Let's
so
let's
keep
hear
in
it.
mind, and if you're, let's just say that this is the first thing you've ever listened to, which the likelihood is low as far as betting goes. You need to find me 8 wins on this schedule, okay?
Yep.
Again, lost 7 offensive
Let
starters. That
me
means they're returning 4 guys.
let's get this pulled up here.
First
Okay,
game, Temple. Go ahead, give it to them.
they're
Houston,
gonna take that.
Houston, give it to them. Tulane, give it to them. Let's say you start 3-0.
Tulane lately has they've played their asses off. I'm not saying that's not going to be an easy win. They can
Yes,
win that, but it's by no means going to be easy.
and so we got 12 games. So we've got
Right. So
three.
we're
We got.
three right
Let's
now.
just assume they're 3-0. So you find me the place where they are going to go. Tennessee, at
Tough.
Auburn, home against Texas, at South Carolina,
South Carolina is going to be mean this year too.
at Ole Miss,
Ole Miss is they could be a
home
playoff
against
team.
home against Maine. I don't know where that one
I
came
didn't know
from.
Maine had a football team.
I did know
That's
Maine had a football
so
team. So let's give them 4. I mean, you could maybe give them 4.
yeah.
And then you're at Missouri, you're
Which
hosting Alabama,
Missouri
and you
is
end in Death Valley, LSU.
that's a tough schedule. Good pull on that. I
If you find me 8 wins out of
so
that.
so for conversational purposes and for the purpose of this podcast, they could beat Tennessee. We've seen Tennessee choke and fold year after year. Tennessee starts off 3-0 every year. We all
Where do you
know
live,
this.
Ethan? Where do you
I
live?
live in the state of Tennessee. I'm
Oh,
not a
okay.
fan of this, but I live in the state of Tennessee. So I get to hear about it day in and day out, how Tennessee's going to win the whole thing and rankings don't matter. We're in the playoff. So let's say they beat Tennessee. So that gives them that's 4 wins, two, three, four,
And then give them Maine, so that'd be five.
five. Auburn, unranked team, still kind of trying to rebuild the program and figure things out there. I could give them six, but then from here on, Ole Miss is a. I mean, they're in the top 10. They're a top 10 team, and they have top 10 talent.
Ole Miss is the best team as far as portal goes this year.
Yeah, I love
They're
Ole Miss. I love them this
returning a
year.
bunch of. I mean,
Jackson
that's a,
Dart. I mean, they're going to be dangerous this year. They're a team. They're not like that national darling everyone talks about, but Ole Miss is going to be scary this year.
I think
Keep
they're
your
going to
eyes
be really
on them.
good.
No questions asked.
Preseason number 6 as well on Ole Miss.
Number 6. Yeah.
Oklahoma is preseason 16. So you go through that schedule, and like I said, you're ending your season, your last 3 games at Missouri, home against Alabama, at LSU.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you get to that point in the season, you could tell me that they're going to go 2-1 against those.
Yeah,
Then you know
I
what? I'll
mean,
gladly light my money on fire, but under 7.5 for Oklahoma for me.
I absolutely, I'm 100% with you on that. I like that one a lot. Um, for me, a bet that I really love, and I think a lot of people are starting to talk about them. A lot of eyes are on Utah. I
Utes.
think this year the Utah Utes can win the Big 12. So you can find that at plus 320 at most books. It's somewhere in that range. Last year they didn't have a quarterback, which and their quarterback is no joke either. I'm blanking on his name.
Okay, I'm in the same boat.
I he's a total legend there. He's a dog. Um,
Cam Rising.
Cam Rising, the rising sun. Cam Rising pretty much took last year off. I'm not saying that his injury might have been mysteriously prolonged, but they were winning games without Cam Rising. And then their backup came in and won games. He got hurt. Their third string came in and won games. That defense is one of the best defenses in college football. I think it should be in the top 20, no doubt about it. But if we take a look at Utah's schedule this year,
I've got it up right here, my friend.
let's take a look here.
The out of conference
So,
games again, like
yeah.
Southern Utah, Baylor, Utah State.
So to start it off with Southern Utah, that's your let's get the juices flowing. Southern Utah, they're gonna win that game. Baylor, tough, but they'll be able to beat Baylor. Utah State, they should be able to beat Oklahoma State. Really dangerous team,
At
but
Oklahoma State.
it's in
That stadium's sick at night. Night games
yeah,
there are
I
insane. The
can't.
blackout.
Yeah. Yep. This guy is driving through Oklahoma at night. One of my favorite memories. I stopped. I looked up. I saw the whole galaxy. Unbelievable place. So Oklahoma State. It'll be a tough game. We could circle that as maybe an upset marker. The closer we get to it, we'll talk a bit more about it. But I don't want to root against my own future here. But Arizona's great, but their head coach left to go to Washington. So Arizona, they should win that. Arizona State should win that. TCU, not even ranked. Houston, BYU, they're going to put a beat down on Colorado. If you want one of, I don't know what the spread is, and I don't think they have a spread out this early for November 16th game. I think Matthias and I both, one of our favorite bets last year, a bet we both love, was the Oregon plus money against Colorado.
Big game.
It didn't matter what the number was. It didn't matter. We just kept let's go, let's go.
Very fun. Very
And
fun.
that's what I feel about Colorado versus Utah. I think Utah is going to go in there and they're going to be like, we're not who you think we are. We are going to absolutely stomp you guys down. After Colorado, they go to Utah or Iowa State, which Iowa State can be frisky.
I think Iowa State's
But
gonna be good.
yeah, they can be very frisky. They'll probably end up the year ranked, but they should be able to beat them. And then UCF. We kind of hate to say things like cupcake schedule, but everyone knows every 4 years Notre Dame cupcake schedule, something they do. Utah this year, their first year in the Big 12. The bet that I love is for them to win the Big 12.
He loves it.
They
Plus
can go
320 as
undefeated.
well. And the Big 12 is not. I feel like it's fairly even spread of good teams. I think it is a little bit wide open as far as a lot of good teams. There's no one dominant. The dominant team is Utah, and
100%,
I think
100%.
everyone's going to agree. So Utah in their last 19 home games, 18-1. That is with
That's
a backup quarterback.
that's one of those stats that absolutely blows me away. But that's another stadium that doesn't get love for just how much energy is in that place and how wild they get. It's another stadium that night games, as an avid Pac-12 watcher, RIP the Pac-12, that is one of those places that I wouldn't want my team to go at nighttime. There's like you're doomed. You're
And
doomed.
that's the thing too. You're basically getting plus 320 that Utah is probably going to win when they go to the Big 12 championship game. That's
Yeah.
your bet
Yeah.
because the chances are that Utah's going to win 10 games. Let's just say they lose two of these. Let's give them Colorado. Let's give them Oklahoma State. Two
Oklahoma State.
tough road
Yeah.
games, I guess. You're going to the Big 12 championship, so
Yeah.
you're getting plus 320 to win that game.
Right.
I
And
mean,
and
the ceiling is. I mean, the floor. I mean, gosh, 10 games. I think.
it 10 games feels easy. Looking at the Big 12 right now, just to run through it, Colorado. Here, I'll say the name and you say if they're better than that team. Colorado, they're definitely better than Colorado.
They're better than Colorado.
Oklahoma State can be tight, but I think they're better than Oklahoma State. I'll go quick here. Texas Tech, Cincinnati, Kansas State, Arizona,
Kansas State.
Baylor.
Kansas State's the one that, and I don't know enough about them, but they are getting gas. I mean, they are
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
gas
They had
absolutely
a
poured on that.
good recruits this year, and they through the portal they finally went out and got a few guys.
I don't get this one. I don't understand the draw to Kansas State for talented D1 athletes. Is it money? Is this a
Where we're
is this a
at
money
right
thing?
now is it's money. Kansas State's always they
I'm
always
not.
get a few
I'm not trying to
guys.
shit
Yeah,
on them. I know they're always, but that's what I'm saying. So like where I
yeah,
live, 15 minutes outside of Champaign, and in Champaign, Fighting Illini's football team is always so bad,
yeah.
and I just don't get the draw. I'm not going to go onto a tangent on that, but
Yeah, it's definitely money.
if you told me in the rest of my lifetime Illinois would be a preseason top 25, I would bet my life savings against it.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
and the way we're going now, it's unlikely. You got Baylor, BYU, Houston, Arizona State, TCU, Kansas, UCF, West Virginia, Iowa State, and off the top of my head, I think three of those teams in their conference are ranked. It's a
Yeah.
very low amount. They should be able to do that. So that's the bet that I love for this season. Now, Matthias, what were you looking at for a bet that you like? Now, just to explain the difference between the love is you will push your chips in on that. That is
Multiple
like,
units. You're
yeah,
putting multiple
multiple
units on a
units.
love.
And a bet you like is just something that you're comfortable with. You like it. It's not, you tell your friends that, hey, it's a pretty good bet. Don't put your life savings on it. So yeah, what's one of the bets you like?
So you could put your life savings on this. You're just getting some juice on it. I like Michigan under 9 wins.
Oh, absolutely. In the Big Ten this year, that's
Big
a great
Ten,
bet. Yeah,
not under 9 wins. They're coming off of an iconic season with a little bit of a watermark on it. I mean, the
yeah.
Stallion stuff and Harbaugh leaving.
Bring the
So
title to Washington, vacate the title, and give it
vacate
to
the title,
Washington.
and then if they vacated that title, would we win our bets? Because okay, fun fact: the biggest bet that I had all of last year was Washington in the Natty.
As someone who had Washington in the Natty, Michael Penix, which still is the Jaden Daniels, great job getting the Heisman, but Michael Penix not winning that Heisman is one that still stings. But I would love to think that we could get that money back. But if they vacate it, it's just going to be probably
It's
just a
yeah,
vacant title.
yeah, it's chalked.
It won't be a Washington. So taking a look at the Michigan schedule,
Juicy.
yeah, I mean, so Fresno State. I'm not going to say they're good. They'll beat Fresno State,
They'll beat the piss out of Fresno State.
and then they go right into Texas. which
Yes.
Texas this year is a top five team. It's their year. It's Texas's year. So to
Yes.
think Michigan goes, well, it's going to be in Michigan, but to think that they're going to even have a chance in that, Arkansas State, they'll beat them.
Give it to him.
USC, they could beat them. Minnesota is tough. That defense has gotten better and better each year in the last two seasons. Um, we can give it to them.
Well,
Now,
this is in the simplest form. This is how I look at it. I'm asking Texas and Ohio State to win against Michigan next year. If
it's, it's a
would you
far
say
better way. Yeah,
if I said I need Michigan to win, I need Ohio State to win. It's at Ohio State last game of the season this year for the Michigan Ohio State game.
yeah.
I'm asking for those two things to happen, and then I'm asking you to get upset one time. Michigan has 7 total returning starters on their team. You're telling me they cannot get upset by, I mean,
They're going to get dog
at
walked by Oregon.
Washington? They go
Yeah,
at Washington. They
and
don't
I
play
think
Oregon. Oh, they
Washington.
yeah, and okay, we got
Yeah.
Oregon. We got Oregon. I
So
mean,
it's
I'm asking for one loss outside of those.
it's the Washington one as a Washington fan trying to be a bit of bipartisan here is I just think Washington is going to have juice for that. Washington, in my opinion, starts 5-0 and to go play the team who cheated themselves into a title. Washington's going to come in with juice. They could upset them. And then Oregon, as much as I hate Oregon, Oregon's probably going to dog walk them. I mean, they are the juiciest team in the entire college football playoff this year.
And
So
it
it's
shouldn't be too cold yet. It's November 2nd. Oregon gets cold. I mean, it's not like
yeah,
a
it
it's
gets
not
cold
like
enough.
you
That's
know
a
USC
stadium.
or anything.
That's it's one of those stadiums that the Autzen Zoo gets loud.
Yeah,
That's
that
a
place gets
place.
loud.
Yeah. So that's going to be a big one. But then outside of that, it's I don't. There's nothing I love about Michigan this year. I feel like they got theirs last year, and they're going to go back to being what they were before the title, before Jim Harbaugh, where they'd float around. They'd start off 7-0, drop to 15th, 18th, 20th, and that's what I think Michigan's going to be. Surely the transfer portal will change things, but there's nothing that sells me about Michigan this season.
And this would have been a love. It's just the best price I could find was minus 135. So minus 135, you're laying 135 to win $100 back. Worst case scenario, 9-3, you push that bet and it never happened. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's a
Yeah,
if I could find better odds, it would get upgraded to love. But just where it's at with the points or
yeah,
with the price of it, that's why I like it.
right. So I'm a little torn.
What do you like?
I'm a little torn on which one I want to pick here. I'll give you both options, and maybe you tell me which one you like out of these two. So, Boise State to win the Mountain West.
Everyone loves this bet.
Everyone loves it, so it kind of felt like, oh, this is a love, not a like. So, I'll put that in the pocket. So, a bet that I like is the Miami Hurricanes to win the ACC.
I like that bet better.
I'm not huge on Mario Cristobal. Coming from Oregon, he ran that team into the ground in Oregon, left Oregon, went to Miami. One of the historically worst coaching performances we'd seen in and recruiting. He can't get anyone to get down there. So they did manage this year to go on and grab Cam Ward, who I watched at Washington State a lot last year. The first 6, 7 games last year, Cam Ward was Heisman candidate. He
Yeah,
was
he was good.
ridiculous. He's very quick on his feet. As much as I hate to say it, he gives me Justin Fields, except he flushes the pocket more and he doesn't run. He looks to throw. Um, Outside of that, Miami, the ACC is going to be a tough schedule or conference, but it's nothing like the SEC, Big Ten, even the Big 12. I feel is going to be harder because Clemson is not Clemson anymore, and at this point, the ACC is falling apart. Florida State, they'll hang around, but it feels like it's going to be up for Miami to take this.
Yes, Miami. So Florida has the hardest schedule in the SEC. They play nothing but dogs. I think Florida's win total is 4.5. Which,
Oh
when I say
wow.
that out loud, it's crazy to hear. Like
Right.
when you hear Florida Gators, you expect there's a certain level of like class that you put into them. Four
Right,
and a half is
right.
crazy. So Miami opens up the season at Florida at the Swamp. So
And that is must watch. That's a
that's a
must
massive
watch game.
game.
Yeah, because if they
So
lose that, then this bet suddenly you're going to be. I mean, it's better to get your bet to die early than it is late. But if this one dies out, it would be at Florida, just being a rival and the state of Florida thing, and it's in the swamp. The juices are going to be flowing,
and right now looking at it, they play one preseason ranked opponent the entire season, and that is Florida State. So
and that's
Miami has favorable schedule. You can get that best odds I found plus 400 to win the
plus
ACC.
400 to win the ACC is what I got. And it's the ACC is not what it used to be. Wake Forest, California, being in the ACC, y'all know California, the Atlantic coast.
That is crazy.
Clemson isn't Clemson. Pittsburgh, they're frisky. SMU, there's a lot of love for SMU. I'm not
There
really
always
on their
is.
bandwagon. Yeah. Louisville, UNC, NC State, Florida State hangs around every year. Boston College, Virginia, Duke, Syracuse, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech. You tell me how many of those teams are going to be better than Miami, who is in a make or break season. Mario
Yep.
Cristobal will be fired if they don't get this right this year. If they don't get it right, there's going to be an overhaul, not like an NFL overhaul, but there's going to be big changes, probably with the entire staff, if they can't win the ACC this year.
And again, with these odds, you're asking Miami to make the tournament and probably beat Florida State's what you're getting plus
Yeah.
400 on. I
Yeah.
mean, that's probably what it's going to come down to.
And I mean, it would be the second time they play Florida State in the season. So let's say they lose to Florida State and they meet them in the title.
Yeah.
You have a chance at them getting their revenge game, and maybe Florida State's sitting guys, or
Yeah.
conference championships are weird nowadays. So, but that's
Real quick, Cam Ward last year, um, 323 for 45, 66% completion percent, 3,700 yards, 7.5 per attempt, 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and he also added 8 touchdowns on the ground as well.
so the my only fear with this bet and why it's a like instead of a love is more Cam Ward's last 6 games. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I believe it was his last 6 games. He fell off a cliff. And that Cam Ward scares the hell out of me. And if we see that Cam Ward, going to be in a little bit of trouble. But as long as he comes out hot and the juices are flowing, I think Cam Ward should be Heisman candidate. You could sneakily maybe even throw a long shot bet on Cam Ward to win the Heisman.
Try and find that for us. There was a game last year. It was a Saturday night game, and he went off. I mean, for some reason, it's
I
escaping me what
want
the
to
game was.
say it might have been the one with Washington. I think he had 300 some odd yards last year.
You can grab Cam Ward 20 to 1.
That's 20 to 1 for a guy who's probably going to win his conference. He will be in the Heisman conversation if he wins his conference. Miami goes undefeated. He's in the Heisman conversation. So that's just a side bet, a free bet you can throw out there. Small units on it just to have some fun, and it gives you something to root for all year.
Yeah, and those long shots, take 3 or 4 guys that you like at big odds as far as Heisman goes. I think Jackson Dart might be the forerunner. I think 15 to
Yeah,
1 is
I'm
the
a, I'm a,
forerunner.
I'm a big fan of him. I think, it's Quinn Ewers. I believe he's 10 to 1. But
Okay.
Jackson Dart, don't want to be giving all my picks here, but Jackson Dart Heisman is another one that I'm going to be sitting on. I'm going to have a couple Heisman bets, but Jackson Dart's another one that I really, really like.
So, this might be a little bit old. I see you can get Quentin Ewers plus 950. Number one,
Okay,
Carson
almost
Beck.
10 to
Okay,
1.
Carson Beck, Georgia is number
Yeah,
one,
that
plus
makes
800.
sense. That makes sense.
This is not like love or hate. This is a complete sidebar. I heard today you can get so Georgia won, Ohio State 2. Everyone says Georgia and Ohio
Uh-huh.
State are the clear runaways as far as talent goes for this year. You
Yeah.
can get right now plus 125 for Georgia or Ohio State to win or the field at minus 165.
I, as gross as it is, and the new playoff format, 165 is a short price, and I'm a fan of that.
I kind of like it too. I think I want to put
Yeah.
money on that.
Yeah, that's one that I fully agree with you. I think the game of the year, and I think the game we're going to be talking about for multiple weeks is going to be Oregon Ohio State. And I
Yeah.
think Oregon is going to be the team who's going to put Ohio State where they belong. And again, this is one of the biggest Oregon haters. I despise them, but I cannot deny that they getting Dylan Gabriel through the transfer portal, he was phenomenal last year, and they got him for free, nothing. And Dan Lanning's defense versus the coach of Ohio State, I'd rather take Dan Lanning in that.
That team out west.
Yeah, oh, let's
Please,
not get started on
please
that
put
team
some
out west.
respect on their name. As native Big Ten fan,
Oh
native
boy,
Big Ten fan talking to a Washington fan.
it
By the way, one thing, I mean, one of the most fun things to do, I know Big Cat says it a ton, like betting with your friends is the best thing. Even
oh
if it's $5. Like
then
I
you
remember
both
another game last year. Who did Notre Dame
you
play? Was it Notre Dame,
Was
Texas?
Notre Dame, Texas. Yeah, that was a good game for
Awesome game.
yeah, yeah. And we had yeah, when you bet with your friends, you're both rooting for the same thing. It's easier to text your buddy when you're on the
Yes.
same line because when you're against each other, just pro tip out there for early betters, don't be that guy who's texting your buddy like, "Hey, dude, you lost." You can razz them up a
Never.
little, but don't. If someone loses and you know they have multiple units on it, don't stop them down. Give them a
Yeah.
couple days. Let them come out of their shell because they'll joke about it first, or you can give them the, "Hey, man, Ohio State lost against Oregon," but don't jump on their stuff because that's such a bad look.
And there's like you said, there's certain ones like know your audience and know where you're at.
Right.
Like let's say that you put a long shot like you put in so like just say you put in for Jackson Dart and then
Uh huh.
okay, heaven forbid, let's just say week one rolls his ankle, he's out for 3 games.
Yeah.
You text, you could say oof.
Yeah.
That's fine.
You,
Like
you
you
can
know what I mean?
the top three texts you can send to your buddy when they lose the bet. The oof,
Oof.
the my bad.
The emoji.
Or just send them the freezing face emoji.
Yeah.
They'll understand it. That's all they need to see, and you can move on from there and never talk about it again. Listen, every single future I place comes in second place, and Matthias knows not to text me about it. Michael Penix not winning the Heisman for 2 years in a row. I had him to win the Heisman, and maybe not in 2022 was he going to be the front runner, but regardless, Michael Penix Heisman second place. Washington to win the national title second place.
Mm,
Iowa women 2 years in a row
no doubt.
second
Yeah.
place. So
Yeah,
some
it's tough.
futures, and you don't want to stomp on your friends with that. If I
Losing a
can,
bet's bad enough. Don't shit on
oh
someone.
yeah,
Like losing a bet's bad enough. Especially like there's certain bets. If you are in this for long enough, like the chances of you being net positive are very low unless you
yeah,
shop lines aggressively and you actually do research. Because odds, like they are so good at it. I mean, it's a coin flip. They want it to be 50-50 and then juice one side. Like that's how Vegas makes money. They're a
yeah,
lot smarter than we
yeah.
are. So like you can't go into it going, oh, if I lose these bets, I'm done gambling. Like no, you're
No,
not. Like
no.
when you lose
And that's
bets,
why,
you come back stronger the next week.
yeah, you also want to keep your bets low and early season too, unless it's a love. And that's why we do segments like this is if we love a bet, we're putting big units on it.
Still responsibly. Like when I
Yes.
first started gambling, I did not have a unit.
Ooh,
You need to first like you need to get a unit, and then
yeah.
you can't be the
Stick
guy
to
that's
the
like,
unit.
let's say I bet $10 a game. Let's say I bet $10 on 3 games. I go 1 and 2, and then all of a sudden I'm
Yeah.
like I'm gonna bet 25 on the next game.
Mm.
Like don't chase. You're gonna have weekends where you're down. You'll have weekends when you're up. Like figure out what your bankroll is, get your unit size, and just stick to it. And then if your bankroll grows or you have extra money to put to it, that's fine. Make your bet go from $5 to $10, whatever it is. It's all relative. But just don't get crazy. I think we've all gotten caught up in that. Like last year, perfect example. First game of the year, Detroit versus Kansas City. I put what I would call probably That'd be 5 units on a game just because I was
That's
so
yeah.
juiced up for Thursday
Hmm.
night football,
Football to start. Yep,
and I
been
bet
there.
Kansas. We both bet Kansas City,
Yeah, yeah.
and
We've been there.
Detroit. Then Detroit showed out and won
That
the game, and
was
then it's
a
like you're behind.
heartbreaker.
Yeah,
The
sucked.
season hasn't even started and you're behind.
Yep.
Always stick to your units. Don't go way too ahead. Um, to hop off of that, let's go straight into things you hate. A bet you hate. Now, by bet you hate, what we mean by that is like you're gritting your teeth. You're going to grit your teeth through this bet. It's something that you're like, I think this can hit, but I'm going to be chewing on nails all season long. So, T, what's one of the bets you hate this year?
So my take is I hate this because I hate the fact that I'm doing it. This could very easily be like an absolute love, love, love. I hate the
Uh-huh.
fact that I'm gonna bet Colorado to win over 5.5.
Oof.
You're paying some juice. It is minus 140. May I read a stat for you guys?
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is kind of hard to follow, but in the past 3 seasons, 32 teams have had 5 losses by less than 7 points. Excuse me, this is the last 11 season. So 5 losses by less than 7 points. Only 2 of those teams finished with a worse record if their head coach returned the following year. So
Oh,
out
okay.
of out of 32 teams that lost 5 games by 7 points or less, the following season they only had a worse record twice. Colorado won 5 games last year, correct?
Yeah.
They started
Yeah.
out 3-0. So you look at the schedule, and Colorado's going to get their ass beat quite a bit, but you're finding 6 wins. You got North Dakota State. The Nebraska game's always awesome. That's at Nebraska this year. Should be a good one to
I
watch.
do, if I can interject, and we're gonna butt heads, but
I don't want this. I'm not want this to happen. There's no butting
my
heads.
one of my favorite underdog bets of the season is North Dakota State. That's the Alabama of FCS football.
Oh yeah,
They
yeah.
don't stop. And I
Trey
think,
Lance, Carson Wentz, right?
yes, I think that's a game that if you want to have some fun, throw $10 on that. I don't know what the odds are right now, but I imagine North Dakota State. But continue. We'll give Colorado that win just because they're an FBS team.
Yeah, like I think Kansas State's going to beat the shit out of them. You lose to Arizona, you lose to Kansas, you lose to Oklahoma State, you lose to Utah. Like I understand all those things are happening. You're telling me I need you to win 4 more games outside of ND State. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
so do I like it? No, I hate this bet, but I just think that with all the stuff with Sanders going on, I mean, he is a putz.
He's a bag.
He's the kind of guy that it's not about me, it's about the kids. Like those guys when they say that, except it's
Yeah,
weird because it is so about you and you love
yeah,
the cameras.
very
And
much.
dismissing local media for CBS posting that you were the second worst coach in the Big 12.
Oh,
And then you're not going to call on the local guys that do Denver because they're with CBS or ABC, whatever the network was.
right.
Like, dude,
CBS.
that's your job. Like, you came to um, a Power Five conference,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I don't know how many people go to Colorado, but it's an actual university. We've seen their place
yeah.
packed now with all the
Yes,
hype around them.
yeah.
You can't go there and treat it like it's a
You're back
rinky
at
dinks.
Jacksonville State. Yeah,
Correct.
it's not how that's
Like,
gonna work.
there's a certain level of decorum that you have to have, and I'm not asking to be like a tight ass. Like I don't mind
No.
like. Go ahead and throw your Instagram ads in the back of the jerseys and do all this
Hmm.
stuff. Have funs, have the turnover chains and all that stuff. Be fun, but you also you don't be a jackass.
Right,
And I think
exactly.
he's kind of just bouncing that territory. But that being said, I do think those kids play for him really hard. He cleaned house quite a bit. He
Hmm.
revamped the offensive line. Shadora Sanders, if he stays healthy, he probably is going to be top 5, top 10 for Heisman.
Yeah,
If you've
he'll
got
definitely be
someone,
in the top 10. Yeah.
so if he's in the top 10 for Heisman, you're telling me he goes. I mean, that's a 7-5 season probably.
Yeah, yeah.
So I need you to win 6 games. I'm going to bet this little bit of juice minus 140. Unfortunately, I hate that I'm doing it, but I'm going to do it.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. So I'm kind of in the same boat with the bet that I hate. Um, I really hate Oregon.
Hates him.
but hating them to win the Big Ten isn't something I'm ready for because the Big Ten is, I don't want to say it's weak this year, but it's Oregon is coming in at such a level
Yeah.
that I think they will walk into the Big Ten. Now, I've watched Oregon year after year choke away the big one. But for some reason this year feels different. There's targets on their backs. They're putting the target right on their own back.
Amen. 100%.
But they if they can beat Ohio State, which I think they will, that's looking at their schedule, that's the only game that I think is going to be a true struggle. Washington, bow down, baby. They're probably going to beat Washington. They haven't beat them in a couple years now. They're going to want the revenge. Oregon to win the Big Ten, and granted, they're probably going to play Ohio State in that. So again, just like Miami with Florida State, win or lose, they get a revenge factor, or
Yeah.
they beat them for a second time and they say, look, we can do it again.
And
It's
Oregon plays Ohio State October 12th. That is in Oregon. So that's
and that's yeah. And in October in Oregon, it's going to be a beautiful environment, and I don't know if Ohio State's ready for stuff like that. I'm not a big Ohio State fan personally. We try to keep some of this stuff aside when you're gambling. We hate the Packers, but if the Packers are given good enough odds, might have to place a bet on them. Is
I
what
don't know.
Hey, Oregon is green
A
and yellow
sand in the
too.
line
I hate
somewhere.
them, but
You can get Oregon, I think best odds you can get plus 225 win the Big Ten.
that's I think that's good enough for me to grit my teeth and place a little
Honestly,
cash
not
on that.
I thought they'd be a little more. Ohio State's getting plus 150, so that's a little
Yeah, I
tighter than I
think
thought.
it is just between them. I think a lot of people understand that Michigan their time has kind of passed us. But yes, so that's like love hate, and those are some of the bets that we're looking at this season. There's going to be a lot more coming your way. It's going to be a very long season. We're going to be trying to do these once a week, and if it goes well, maybe we'll even squeeze in twice a week. But like love hate is something that we kind of just came up with on the fly. Figure everyone wants to hear what's the best bets. Everyone has best bets. What about some bets that maybe you want to feel that sweat? Both of us every
Yes.
once in a while. You want to feel the sweat every once in a while. It's not fun, but it gets I keep using the term juices flowing. It gets that adrenaline pumping when Oregon Ohio State
It's
and
the
this
best.
yeah, it's a great feeling. So that's something we're going to carry through the season, hopefully, and that's one of our first segments, you would say, that is going to be recurring.
I love it. And to his point, the best part about like if you're how many people are professional handicappers and making their livelihood from gambling? 1% of the 1% of people that gamble. We both
Right.
have full-time jobs. Like there's nothing better than like let's say you have a long shitty week at work, which we all have. I mean,
Yeah.
Saturday night rolls around and you lock in and you like where else can you spend? Let's just
It's
say that I'm gonna bet $10 in this game. Where else can you put
yeah.
$10 on something to get 3.5+ hours of entertainment, texting your boys, having a few drink, you know what I mean? Just like enjoying
Yeah.
yourself. Like that's why people love gambling. At least for
That's
me. Like it's
yeah.
never really
That's
about
what it's about.
I'm not trying to retire from winning bets. Like
No,
I
absolutely
enjoy
not.
doing
But
it.
if you go to the movie theater and you're going to pay $10 to see
Uh,
Titanic,
$25 probably for
if
the
you're going to
record.
pay 25 to see Titanic, Titanic is a phenomenal movie. It's a long movie. But if you're saying like, "Oh, wait, when I walk out of here, you're telling me that if I'm happy with this movie, I'm going to get extra money?" It's stuff like that. Like you're
Ooh,
going to
good point.
enjoy the experience, but on the outside, if you enjoy it to the fullest extent, you're going to walk out with a little bit of extra money. And it's always fun to be like, hey, I won. You don't want to tell your friends exact amounts, but like, hey, I just won 25 extra bucks. That can help me go get some gas this week. And it's like, later on, we'll probably do gas money bets. We'll do pizza money bets, things that we like to sometimes take those bets and turn them around and get through life. Just, it's like getting a bonus in the middle of your week.
And I got bad news for you. That fucking Titanic ship is sinking every time you go and see it. You show me 2 Saturday nights in college
That's
football that are the same, then I will give you my entire life savings.
it's always going to happen. It's always the game you don't expect. Um, so yeah, that's going to be like love hate. Hopefully you guys are into that. And next episode, we're probably going to try to reach. We did talk a bit about Heisman. We'll probably toss a couple more out there, maybe sleepers, guys you're not thinking about. Don't. We're not the type of guys who are going to walk in here and say, take the favorite every time. But let's have a little fun. So on the next episode, we'll probably talk a little bit about Heisman. We might reach a little bit more into the NFL. We're going to hold on our NFL episode a little bit closer to the beginning of the season. So that way we'll have our picks ready and then we can give them to you when you guys are ready.
Love it. Yeah, I think next week we'll be back. Ethan hit it. We'll do some Heisman talk, and we will just slowly. I think we are 2 weeks away from official college football being
Yep.
played.
Yep. Week
So
zero.
we're right around the corner. When I wake up, it's 58, 59 degrees. It's starting to get crisp. It's like it
Feeling it.
truly is the best time of the year. So we will be here. We will have plenty of action for you guys in the coming up weeks. If you have any suggestions, we would be more than happy to take those into consideration. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you guys next week.
Peace out.